Listeners, we have a great episode for you today. How do I start a business? Where do I even start? John Anthony and I, all of which have started and ran multiple successful businesses, we just sit down and we talk about it. And we talk about the good, we talk about the bad, the challenges, and try to give you information that you can figure out, is this the route for me? So if you're thinking about running your own business or starting your own business, this is the episode for you. Listeners, welcome back to Tales of Abundance. Once again, I'm here with Dr. John Oberg and frequent contributor Anthony Marino. And today we're going to talk about starting a business. And is it right for you? Should everybody start a business? And we're just going to deep into it. So
Don't do it. Oh, sorry.
Not the worst advice. Okay. Podcast over. There we go.
And thank you for being here. Make sure you like, subscribe, and tell a friend.
Yes, exactly. So, this came up. I had two people in a week just reach out to me or talk to me about starting a business and how do I start a business and where do I start and what type of business do I start. So I thought this would be a good topic. All three of us have run multiple businesses and, all of us have that entrepreneurial spirit. So let's jump in.
Step one, entrepreneurs who think that everyone should start a business, it's just not like everyone should. Like there are people that should start businesses, there are people that shouldn't, but I definitely fell victim to a period of my life where I was running a business and thought that everybody in the world should have to run a business at one point in their life, and I couldn't have been more wrong.
I 100% agree. I had the same feeling until probably 5 to 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And now, by the way, my standard response when somebody says, should I start a business? And it used to be like, well, yes, and let's go, right? I thought everybody did too. Now my standard response is, do you have to?
What did Elon Musk say about that? If you need more validation or something as an entrepreneur, would you remember that quote?
No, I do not.
I'll look it up. Do you remember what it was? Okay, I'll find it.
But I literally ask people now if they have to, right? And that's the way I feel about it is, life is probably easier being an employee, working for somebody else. You lose control and some other stuff we'll talk about, but it either is in you or it's not. So is it for me? What are some of the things, Anthony, that you think people need to consider? Because I know you've thought a lot about this. We have a blog that people can find on the website about starting a business, and it's very practical steps. But what are some of the things people should be considering if they're just saying, should I start a business?
It's so different today than it was pre-remote working, pre-gig economy, and so forth. So my answer 10 years ago would have been very, very different because you can dabble a little bit with starting a business to see if it's something that you want to do. If you've got you're making potholders at home, you can try to sell those online to see if it's something that the world wants. Will the world be the path to your door? So it's very, very different. There's so much to consider. It's your what is your current circumstance? There are people that are working for big companies that are doing very well, that are choosing not to start a business, but they might be the perfect person to start a business. They may have the temperament, they may have the cash reserves, they may have a great idea. It's a matter of, and I don't know that I would agree with you that do you have to? Is there an itch? Do you have an itch? And if you have that itch, I highly recommend scratching it.
Well, there's so many different, start a business is probably a super unfair topic. Like starting a lawn, maintenance business as a high schooler, or even as an adult, having your own lawn care business where it's just you is one type of business, or having an auto repair shop with 15 employees is a different type of business. Having, an attempted, venture-backed startup unicorn is a different kind of, so, there's a little bit of disservice for us being tongue-in-cheek and saying start a business as if they all belong in one category. They definitively do not all belong in the same. Like having a babysitting or a dog-sitting business as a high schooler is a totally different set of risks, rewards, things, experiences than jumping out of a 25-year career and jumping into a venture-backed startup situation.
Well, even even that situation, not many people are going to be able to get venture capital unless they've been part of something adjacent to what they're considering starting. If someone wants to hire an expert in a particular field and wants to back that expert, I imagine there'll be hundreds of startup AI businesses with the talent that's out there that's creating the AI infrastructure and technology. People will back the smartest guy in the room.
Sure.
So there'll be a lot of that going on. But I talk about the itch. The itch is, it's our last episode we talked about happiness. If that itch to be on your own and be your own boss, which you never really are, by the way. We'll talk about that later, about what's the downside of operating your own business. If you don't scratch it, you'll likely regret it.
So one person, we wrote down in our notes, like, is it for me? One way to know if it's for you is, do you have a hankering for running your own business? Yeah. But do you also have to know, like, what it means to run your own business? Like I think, are there, and I've done it a couple of times, so I'm a little bit removed from this, but like, is it true or not true that when people think about running their own business before they've done it, that they understand what it means?
Well, I would point you to the article that's on our website called Keys to Starting Your Own Business that talks in depth about the steps that you have to go through. And one of those steps is what you're talking about. Am I an expert at this? Is there something unique? Is the market, is there a market for it? And then it talks, of course, all about what it isn't. Starting your own business doesn't put you in control of your destiny.
Instead of one boss, every single customer of your company becomes your boss.
Well, every single customer, every single vendor, the bank, your savings account, your 401k, your IRA, your Uncle John,
and occasionally your spouse.
But let's be more specific here. I mean, what Anthony's talking about, I think all of us have experienced this. I know I have, that the business all of a sudden, if it's not making money, and you got payroll to make, guess what? I've had where I didn't pay myself for over a year because the business couldn't afford to pay me, but I had to pay everybody else, and I had to take savings to make payroll. Like, that's one of the realities of running a business. So when you think about it, if you're willing to start, are you committed enough to do this that you're willing to do that if push comes to shove?
Or are you willing to run a business that won't ever need that? Because there are some structures for businesses where you may never have, like, if I don't hire people, I don't have payroll, I don't have to manage people. Like, so that's a type of business to run, right? So I think those are the big questions. It's not just start a business, it's what am I starting, how am I going to do it, and am I qualified to do those things? And many times, do I have the right team of people around me? There was a research article I read years ago where it had like 700 private equity firms did a bunch of research on all their portfolios. And for private equity, they found the most successful entrepreneurs were typically 20 or 30 years in their field, a team of 2 to 3 people, and that's how those private equity firms invested. But I think that really poo-poos the person who's living in, the Midwest, who has a really successful auto repair shop in a small town. Like, that is just as an entrepreneurial person in my mind as anybody else.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, if people really want to explore, should they start a business, we have AI today. I think a great thing to do would be just go have a conversation with AI and start asking it, say, hey, I'm interested in starting a business. What questions should I be asking? What should I be considering? And help me decide if this is the right path for me. And I think you could do the same thing with a friend.
Sure.
Right? Make sure you're getting advice from the right place. And not everything that comes out of AI is perfect. It hallucinates and everything else too. But either way, finding the right friend, mentor, or if that's not available, I think that's a great tool for a lot of people to just go in and just start talking to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's assume for a second that you have the itch, that you're ready to do it. You've got a particular industry that you're confident in. The first thing you need is cash reserves. If you don't have cash, you're not going to start a business. And generally, a bank isn't going to lend you money for a startup business. So you're going to have to self-fund it somehow, either Uncle John or your savings account, or you're going to push your chips in the table from your 401k, whatever it's going to be. And then you got to determine how much time does that cash give you? And does your business plan, the cash, and the time align?
And how many assumptions are in that business?
Well,
Right.
yeah, and I was going to go there. The sensitivity analysis around those three things. What if I have to spend more cash? What does that do to time? If the market slows down, what does it do to cash and time? So these levers are moving back and forth. And before you jump in, you've got to do that analysis and be very comfortable and confident in that analysis, because if you're unsure of it, it's time to put it on pause, rethink it, build up some more cash reserve maybe, find more time, whatever you have to do market research, so on and so forth.
Or find a business that doesn't need as much cash, and maybe somebody can work a part-time job and use their evenings and weekends to build the business until they're able to leave their full-time job.
Yeah, I think we're past the point in the discussion of what the business is going to be. I'm assuming at this point that the individual or the family has decided this is the industry we want to be in. We want to be in the automotive repair business. We're good at it, and we grew up in it. We wrenched on our cars all my life. I'm ready to do this. What does it take to do that? And then you do all the market analysis, all the financial analysis. Like you say, seek advice and counsel from AI, and there are plenty of tools out there to figure this out. Do I have to buy a site, or can I, take over an abandoned barn somewhere? Whatever the situation is. But before you say yes, you've done that analysis, and you're saying, okay, it's going to take us a year. It's going to cost this much money. I'm going to need this much help, or no help at all, depending on the business. You've done the work. You've done the legwork. It's like a Broadway play. You rehearse until you're ready for opening night. And if you don't do the rehearsal, believe me, you're gonna pay for it. I can think of a very specific example where I didn't do the rehearsal and I'm paying for it. But nonetheless, I think that's the way I would frame the discussion. Is I'm going to rehearse this. I'm going to plan it. Doesn't mean it's going to all happen the way you thought, but you'll have found your trapdoors, many of your trapdoors along the way by doing that.
You were going to go to side hustle. Don't lose that point, because I think there are businesses you can do as a side hustle,
right,
and there are businesses you shouldn't do as a side hustle.
Right. But the right business, you can get into it and start on and build it while you're working a full-time job. Like, It doesn't have to be this big risk thing. And by the way, Anthony, we made the assumption, like, okay, they've already figured out it wants to be an auto shop. The two people that asked me a question that kind of inspired this episode had no idea what type of business they wanted to be in. They started with, I want a business. And, for me, it was, asking them some questions about.
Did you ask why? I'm curious, though. Did you ask why? I'm just fascinated about why they.
That's a great question. Okay. So I think, it's freedom, it's control. Some people, I'm recruiting people, right? Like for premium cabinets, I'm looking for dealers. I mean, one of the avatars that we're looking for is somebody that's in the corporate world. They're doing well in the corporate world, but they're tired of it. They're sick of it. They're fed up. They want to they want to be their own boss, right? And they want to go build something. They don't want to build somebody else's business. They want to build their business.
Yeah.
That's a really common avatar for us.
I found that quote, by the way. I think it's a good place for it. What about
Throw it in.
The reporter said to Elon Musk, what would you say to encourage people who want to start a business? And Elon said, if you need encouraging words, don't do a startup.
No. Yeah, there isn't going to be much encouragement. That's true. I mean, you're out there on an island, and you might be networking with other business owners, but other people aren't going to understand.
So these people, they came to you and you asked them why, and they gave these couple reasons about freedom. And want to be my own boss.
But it's different for everybody, and everybody has their own reason, right? But I think a lot of people, it is freedom, control. Not somebody else can't lay you off. You don't have to deal with an asshole boss, whatever it happens to be, right? Everybody's got their own reasons that they want to get out of that grind. But for a lot of people, I think it's they just don't want to build somebody else's business. They want to build their business.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with all that, but you've got to get past the Pollyanna part of it. I want to be in business. I want to be my own boss. You still got to go through the work of, okay, a boss of what? What are you good at? You have to go through all, and then again, I'll beat it to a dead horse. you've got to figure out, you got to rehearse it. It's just the right market.
You say that, by the way, and I'm not disagreeing with you. In fact, I think I'm gonna tell listeners, I think Anthony's right. Listen to what Anthony's saying. But I will also tell you, almost every business I've ever started has been more
Seat of the pants.
throw shit at the wall and see what sticks and figure it out. Like for me, it's been more, let me just go see if I can sell this thing, and I figure out how to sell it, and then I build the business around it after proof of concept. Okay. I have dove into the deep end. I mean, instead of ready, aim, fire, I'm more of a ready, fire, aim guy.
Oh, come on now.
Right?
Fire, ready, aim. I don't know about ready, fire, aim. You just fire, then you get ready.
I get ready,
aim.
and then I fire. It's all right.
Okay.
But I fire before.
Do you-
I aim after firing a lot of times.
Okay,
Yeah.
so serious question to both of you. Would you consider buying a franchise business ownership?
I wouldn't have when I was younger, and I would now.
Okay.
Like, when I was younger, I don't know. There was more of I could figure everything out, and I could. And now I think back, and I was like, why do I want to pay somebody else for that expertise? Now I think that was pretty stupid, because if I bought a franchise and somebody else, and all I have to do is execute their game plan, and the time and the energy and the headaches it saved.
You're betting on execution. You're not betting on product market fit. You're not betting on process development. You're just betting on execution.
It's a proven.
Yeah.
So I would say yes now, no when I was younger, because I was stupid.
Anthony, how about you?
It just did.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, it isn't a franchise relationship, but we just did that.
Yeah.
We hooked up with someone that has all the back end, all the established processes, and all we have to be is a sales and marketing company with a little bit of execution.
But do you consider that like a real business ownership?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
Yeah, and to answer your question specifically, yeah, I would consider a franchise model. Sure. It obviously would depend on what it is.
Yeah, sure.
Is it good for me? Do I understand that business? A franchise is not generally going to be a one-man band. It's going to be something.
Oh, no, they can be. Like it's a whole industry. They have a ton of one-man band franchises.
Like, give me an example.
There's you've got the big maid services that are not the one-man band, but then you have like some, I think, maid services that are just a single person. So.
Yeah, I guess when I'm thinking of a franchise, I'm thinking of a fast food or a
A lot of people in Sandler training have franchises that are just one person. Like there's a lot of, I know some people, I've met people along the years that are like franchise, like recruiters, right? They go out and they recruit franchisees and they do all these assessments and they try to help you find the perfect role. So for someone who's like, I want to own a business and I don't know what business to own, like talking to one of these franchise brokers or franchise agents, if you find a good one, they're going to help you find something that really fits the right way. But there's still a lot of diligence. To your point about market and all this other stuff, like you still have to be just as diligent about doing all the homework, right? Even if someone's got a system that works.
Well, when it comes to managing people, it doesn't matter if it's a group of people or managing yourself.
Yeah.
You better have a discipline around time management, organizational structure, what needs to be, earlier you talked about what do you have on the wall that's telling me what to do next, being really, deliberate about what you're doing every day.
So one of the best books I've ever read about this was the E-Myth. Have you both read this book?
Oh yeah, all of his stuff. Gerber's great.
Okay. What are your takeaways? What would you tell listeners, just to give them a summary, John, of the E-Myth?
Yes, I mean, the E-Myth Revisited is the book that's kind of most current in his basic book. And that book is about how do you think about working on the business versus working in the business. And it talks about being the technician, the manager, and then the owner of the business, and how you really divide your time between those things and how you scale through that as the business grows. And then I think, E-Myth Mastery, which is a follow-on book to that, walks through all the key systems you have to have in your business, from lead generation to brand marketing to lead conversion, how you do leadership and performance management, how you handle strategy. And he gives you like the 7 key things from his perspective that you have to excellently execute on. And so I think those 2 books together are just fantastic views into how to view entrepreneurship and then how to look at the key systems of any business.
Yeah, I think what I remember, it's been years since I read or actually listened to the book, but what I really remember about it was like the example of the woman that wanted to start a bakery because she loved to bake. And then she started the bakery, and she found she didn't hardly have time to bake. She was spending all of her time ordering and paying bills and paying taxes and filling out forms and all of the crap that goes with a business that sometimes people, that's what I really remember from the book, right? Is if you're starting something because you like it, is maybe starting the business doesn't, it's not what you think it is.
Better like running a business or managing people. Those are professions. Playing baseball could be a profession.
Yeah.
Coaching baseball is a different profession. Owning a baseball team is a different profession. Like
Right.
managing people is a different profession than doing whatever it was you did before you managed people. And running a business is a different skill set. Like consulting is another great example. If you want to run a consulting business, you better know how to run a business and how to do the thing and how to consult for the thing, because consulting is a skill set. Running a business is a skill set, managing people. And so you'd better make sure you come with the right skill sets for whatever it is you're going to do.
Yeah, and including so for me, one of the lessons I've learned in recent years is hiring for the things that you're not good at, or in my case, a lot of times it's just I don't like doing. I hate government paperwork and all of the filing this. I despise it, right? And it's like I'm it's morally objectionable, and I don't like doing it. So now,
And you do it.
I did it, but now I've hired somebody else that does it better than me, and I don't have to do it. She enjoys it. And at some point, you learn to hire for those weaknesses, right? Whatever that is. But that might be hard as a startup if you don't. Anthony's talking about the cash earlier, right? If you don't have the cash, you can't afford to hire people in those positions.
Yeah, I'm going to shout out to a couple of my friends over at Zen Business. Great way to kind of get that off the ground stuff you have to get done that you don't need to figure it out on your own, because you're going to do it once if you do it right, and you don't have to do it all the time, and you can just get them to help you start your business.
Yeah. And I think all three of us have used people overseas, right?
yeah.
With Upwork or whatever else.
Fiverr,
Yeah.
99 Designs. Love it.
To get a lot of that stuff done.
Yeah.
Well, what about if somebody's trying to figure out what type of business? Like we kind of hand-waved over that. Like that's not, Anthony, you talked about in broad sense, right? You talked about market research and are you an expert? Or I might say, are you willing to become an expert if you're not, right? What else? What else should they consider when they're trying to figure out what is the right business for them?
Working in the business for a year or two, doing it with somebody else before they actually jump off into their own, like that because at that point you're actually trying it on. You're seeing if you enjoy the day-to-day work. And so I would say that in most businesses, not all, but in most businesses, you can actually go work with somebody else before you actually do it and take all that risk on your own.
I would answer it this way. What do you like to do, and what are you good at? And, I use that when deciding, where to place somebody in a role inside the job. What are they good at, and what do they like to do? Because that's what they're going to do. If you give them a job, if I give that person the job Randy described of doing government paperwork, and they're a sales and marketing person, guess what's not going to get done? The government paperwork's not going to get done. They're going to be, on social media. They're going to be doing ad copy and so on and so forth, because that's what they're good at and that's what they like to do. So what is it? What is it that you like? What is it that you're good at? And try to leverage that. Don't try. It can work, and it has, and I've seen it work. A square peg in a round hole. I could probably figure out how to run an automotive business. I could barely change the battery in my motorcycle. But I could probably figure it out. Is that the highest and best use of my time? Is that going to be the fastest way to success? Probably not, because there's going to be a lot of nuance in that business that I don't understand. So that would be my advice. Try to be a round peg in a round hole first, and then because you're going to enjoy that. You're going to understand it. You're going to enjoy it, and
is it fair to say there's a difference between what you think you're good at and think you enjoy versus actually doing it long enough to figure out if you really... Because I've met a number of people who thought they knew what they enjoyed. They thought they knew what they were good at, and then they did it for a while and realized it was neither one of those things.
Well, they didn't do the rehearsal.
Yeah, that's right.
They didn't rehearse. And yet that's what you have to figure out. Yeah, look, I was an operator my whole career and then found marketing later on in life. And I said, I should have done this 15 years ago because I like this and I am actually good at it. I figured it out. it just came to me. I was still a pretty good operator, but boy, I really like this other stuff and got very attached to it. And, the rest is current history. So
But you've been willing to learn too. I think this is a skill set maybe we should talk about is, I think both of you have been willing to learn, because if you go into a business, there's going to be skill sets that you don't have. No matter how much of that preparation, shit's going to happen and you're going to need a skill set. So both of you are willing to read a book, attend a seminar, get a coach.
Well, if you own a business, it's more than learning skills. It's also learning, to listen to markets and listen to people. And Anthony and I had a conversation earlier today where he gave me feedback on something where I had a blind spot, and that, and my reaction was, thank you, and please keep looking for my blind spots. And now I'm going to go try to work on that. And that means listening to a customer or listening to, there's all these different, so it's not just learning skills.
Right.
It's learning a lot of things.
Well, and it's also, let's be honest, with anyone thinking about doing this, let's say you're the person who doesn't like government paperwork. You will find yourself up at 2 o'clock in the morning doing government paperwork because there's nobody else around to do it.
Right.
That's the kind of commitment that you better be ready to make if you're going to go off on your own. There are going to be days and weeks and months where it's hundreds of hours back to back to back to back to back and doing things that you have no interest in doing. So it's going to happen.
We're really selling the hell out of this startup business.
I was like,
aren't
no
we?
vitriol there.
Yes.
Didn't hear any animosity, acid, negativity. Just didn't sense it at all.
All right. Well,
but wait a minute, hold on. There is a tremendous reward for that, because to your point about learning something, now you know how to do it. Now you can teach somebody how to do it, and you can take it off your plate. It's really difficult to grow and scale a business if you don't know what you're growing and you don't know what you're scaling. So, doing it yourself first doesn't mean you have to be an expert at it, but now at least you can explain it. And not only can you explain it, you can supervise it and you can follow up to make sure it gets done. So understanding your whole business as an owner is so important. Read some books on Steve Jobs. That would be one piece of advice I would give. Read three, pick any three biographies, outside, anti-biographies. Read how he grew Apple. Read something about PayPal and the way those guys operated and the things they did, the hands-on, grimy things that they did, and how they built teams and who they selected and how they selected people to join them, how they selected vendors, how they searched for quality vendors, quality people, A players. Their philosophies are absolutely applicable to a side hustle.
yeah. Biographies of business owners are fascinating. There's a lot to be learned from those.
Yeah.
There really are. So let's go to
Well, hold on, but before I want to tie the bow on the Anthony stuff, because we started here at the very beginning of the podcast, it was like, I think it's okay. Like, you have to give people permission to say, this isn't for me. Like, if that sounds awful to me, if I don't want to have to do all that, I just want to bake bread, then you really need to know that, like, there's a role for just baking bread. Like, I know a guy who used to run $1 billion bakery, for one of the biggest grocery stores in the country. And it's so you can bake bread. If you love baking bread, it's okay. Like, we need to give people permission. Like, there's no badge of courage for grinding through having a business when you don't love it.
Let's talk more about that when we come back from break. So listeners, we'll be right back after the break.
Hey, it's Randy from Tales of Abundance. Is starting a business part of your journey? Do you have ambition but no clear path? Maybe you feel trapped in your current career. Do you want a real business that can produce $250,000 or more income for you and your family? We have an opportunity for a profitable business that can be part of your path to abundance. I want to personally invite you to see the proven system we've built. It's designed to give you that freedom and control you've been searching for. Visit premiumcabinets.com/abundance to learn more. That's premiumcabinets.com/abundance.
Listeners, welcome back to Tales of Abundance, Why Settle for Less? And before the break, John had brought up the example of bread, and I think it's a really interesting thread to pull on a little bit.
You're
right?
not the
bread.
baker. Yeah,
Okay. Anyway, I think that could go anywhere from somebody in their kitchen at home, baking bread and selling it to their neighbors, right, to having a huge factory making bread and selling it to, grocery stores and everybody in the world. And there's a whole bunch of things in the middle, right?
Sure.
It could be opening a bakery, it could be a food truck, it could be a lot of different things. So let's just pull on that. Let's dig into that a little bit. Like, how do people figure out which one of those is right for them? Like, where should they start? I mean, we've been beating around it, but let's get practical for a minute.
Anthony said it. Do you like it? Are you good at it? And are you good at it is probably a lot of different skills. Like if you're going to manage people, like the first layer of management, you've got to know how to recruit people, and you got to know how to train people, and you got to know how to coach people, you got to know how to manage them in terms of accountability, and you've got to know how to help them grow through their job with you. And so those, like, that's just that, and that's like management 101. And then when you get into like higher level management, you've got to learn how to design and improve processes, and how to make strategic decisions based on markets and products, and develop products. And so, I mean, depending on what level of sophistication of company you're talking about, you get more and more complicated decision sets that you have to make. And there are people that go through entire careers and advanced degrees just to figure out how to make all these decisions. And so some of those are important for a small bakery. Some of those are not. But as you get to bigger, more complicated businesses, there's more to keep your arms around. And so I think, back to Anthony's point at the beginning, if you like it and you're good at it, it's a pretty good starting place.
Yeah, but I think you're asking the question, and before the break, you said that it's okay to not want to run your own business.
Yes.
Because depending on where you settle down, if you're just baking bread for your neighbors, yes, there's a little bit of stress associated with that, but the level of stress, it's not really a war. It's not really a battle. It's an act of love, and you're getting a lot of joy out of that, and so on, making people happy in your neighborhood. When you choose to own a business or run a business or build a business, you're going to war with somebody, generally speaking, is already doing something either similar or exactly the same. And every minute of every day, they're thinking about how to be better at it, how to reduce their supply chain costs, how to hire the best people, and so forth. And so we are talking you out of this, and we should. We should talk you out of this, because it is very, very difficult to do. So few businesses, just grow because they had a great idea. I'm sure they're out there, and listeners, you can email us and give us those examples. We'd love to hear them. But generally speaking, starting a business, it's not an original idea, or it's adjacent to an existing idea. You may be trying to usurp someone in the space because your product or your idea is better than theirs. But it is a lot of work, and that's okay. It's so fulfilling. The self-actualization that you will enjoy and get out of being successful running your own business is like nothing I can describe. Having been on both sides of it personally, there is nothing more joyous than being successful in running your own business, other than having children and seeing them grow up and all this. Put all that stuff aside, which is all wonderful, and I'm very happy about it. But
Anthony's family's listening.
From a business perspective, there was nothing more joyous than watching a business grow and being successful, no matter how hard I was working. Lots of sacrifice. Lots of family time lost, lots of traveling, lots and lots of sacrifice, but it is so worth doing. So keep that in mind as you go through it. But it is very difficult, and the minutia that you'll be involved in will be just so irritating at times that you can't believe you're having to.
Yeah, it's not like you're the boss and you get to like just not worry about it and somebody else does it. You've got to worry about all of it and hope they do it right. Yep. And if they don't step in and
right.
Which is fine. I mean,
it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would also encourage people to think in today's world, do you want, is it a retail business, right? And or is it wholesale, or what are you doing? But even more than that, are you selling a product? Are you selling a service? Right? And then we could get into what that customer avatar and pain, pleasure, and what they're really selling. But, some of the best businesses today aren't doing either, really. You think of, I think of Mr. Beast. I mean, that guy's worth billions from making, I think he's the best probably at YouTube videos. I think that's what the stats say.
Oh, he's selling ads. It's a more complicated business for people to understand, but he's also has a customer. He's got a user. He's got
Understood, but he is making. I mean, his super. I don't look. I've probably seen 2 of his videos in my life, but the best I can tell, and from things I've listened to him and read up on him a little bit, he has become very, very excellent at beating the YouTube algorithm. Probably something we should learn for our own benefit.
If you're listening,
right?
welcome to the show. Well, come on in and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't think he's listening.
Yeah.
But if he is.
Okay. So there's a lot of paths people could take, right?
Sure.
I mean, and there's more and more in AI. I mean, people talk about the $1 billion unicorn with just a founder only, or a founder and 1 or 2 employees. Like that's going to be a thing at some point. I mean, there's a lot of options there.
And to your point earlier, I think that if somebody is interested in running a business, like an AI may hallucinate and may give not perfect answers, but boy, I gotta believe if someone is asking good questions with prompts, they're gonna get really good direction. Like they're going to be like 80-90% or more kind of in the direction of the conversation they should be having.
But this is another skill, right? I mean, we were talking about Anthony's talking about all the skills. Like I think in today's world, if you're going to run a business, you better start teaching yourself AI.
Oh yeah, I tell CEOs of businesses all the time. If you're not thinking about AI in your org chart as a part of what you're doing, then and somebody else is, to your point, Anthony, like it's only a matter of time before that impacts you.
Yeah, I mean. Looks like you have something to say, Anthony.
No, I'm in total. I can't believe it. I'm in total agreement with you two. Just
shocking.
And we're done.
Well, something else that occurs to me is I think it's important to have a service attitude. Like you have to be there to serve customers, and if you're going to have employees, you got to be there to serve employees. I think it's very hard to have a successful business if you don't have that mindset. Would you guys agree with that?
I was trying to think of any business that couldn't do that. Like, let's just think about, is there a business where you don't have to have a service attitude as a business owner?
I don't know. I mean, it's just, I'm thinking in the last week, I've had a couple of customer experiences, one of them with my cable company. I won't call them by name. And a router went out one night, and the process, all I could think is I had to enter the same information 3 times back to back to back. And I just thought to myself, if the CEO of this company had his cable go out, or internet cable, whatever, went out, and he had to go through this process, it was very clear to me he's never gone through it, or she's never gone through it, because they would be irritated as hell to have to enter. Like I had to enter my name, address, phone number, email, back to back to back, 3 different times.
Yeah.
Right? Like that customer, that's not a service attitude. And I don't think that company started there. They're a behemoth now, and they're able to get away with it. But I don't think they started that way, right?
Yeah, you make that sound easy, right? And I don't think anyone would disagree that if the best companies, the companies that you frequent the most are the companies that treat you the best, right? In the beginning, that's much harder to do. Because in the beginning, if you want to satisfy every customer and give it your all, it's going to cost money, and it may not result in revenue. Speaking from experience, all these companies that are fantastic, Apple, NVIDIA, you name these giant companies, you go back to their core value, it's exactly what you said. It's creating something for a customer that they can't get anywhere else, and an experience that they will not get anywhere else, and we will out-experience everybody in the marketplace. But it is expensive to do out of the gate. So yes, I agree. I would layer on top of that I never knew what this was when I was in the corporate world. It was only until I became an entrepreneur that I learned what it was when someone taught this to me, is be a servant leader. Be the person who is willing to do anything for the business. You take your ego, you leave it in the car or the bus or the train, however you get to work. You leave it out there and just go to work. And whatever needs to be done, do it. What will happen as you hire employees or bring partners on, they will see that. And that's your culture. We are all servant leaders, and we're serving the customer. it's so critically important.
I think that's true for your partners too, though. I think
Yeah.
that's, anybody who wants to start a business, I'd really encourage them to find a partner or two. And there's different kinds of partnerships, right? There's partnerships where everyone's kind of equally yoked and jumping through it. There's times you bring in advisors, whatever the case may be. But having that core team at the very beginning, otherwise you run an even higher risk of being in an echo chamber. And so I think that, I'm still stuck on this service thing. But you've got to serve your partners. You've got to really make sure that you're watching out for each other. I've seen it happen where those business marriages break up, and it's tough.
There's definitely added complexity if you're going to have partners, but I agree with you. I like running the business with somebody, right? Running the race together is a lot more fun.
Yeah, but I mean, anecdotally, and I'm guessing the science with this, like you're going to be more successful if you have partners.
Well, if you choose the right people,
Of course.
Back to Steve Jobs, I think there was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 or 30 employees at the very beginning. They were just getting started, and he was spending almost all of his time recruiting and interviewing and selecting people. And either was an advisor, an investor, or somebody said to him, "What the hell are you doing? You should be out figuring out product and whatever." He said, "Look, we have 20 people here. They all are 5% of this company. It's 5%. Every single person we add is a piece of this company. There's nothing I should be doing more or better than picking the right people. A players will exponentially produce more than a B player. B players hire C players and perform at C level. A players are A players."
Well, nothing is more true than that today. When an A player is going to be using AI to, I talked to an entrepreneur a couple of weeks ago who said that he's doing 50 times the amount of work output using AI than he was before, and he was serious. And so, to your point, A players are now like geometrically,
Right.
not a little more.
And if you made a mistake, bringing a partner on or an investor, figure out how to get out of it.
Quickly.
Well, figure out how to get out of it. It may not. The entanglement may take time for contractual reasons or whatever the reasons might be, but when you're putting it together, put it together in a way that you know what the exit strategy is. If it's a legal document, here's how I'm going to pay you off to be done with you. Here's assume it's going to fail in any kind of legal entanglement and have a way out. It might take you a year, it might take you 24 months, it might take you 24 hours, whatever it's going to be. But have a way out, because if you don't, it's going to be a nightmare for you.
Well, you've seen me at the beginning of this before, Anthony. We go through like the prenuptial agreement in businesses and really make sure that there's a very explicit set of conversations around, like, if this starts to go south, what do we do? And in a perfect world, you do it in such a way that the personal relationship can last past any problem like that. And it's I've seen that go both ways too. But
but I don't let's not hand wave over it, to use Randy's term, because that's hard to do. It's like he's talking about a prenup.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm in love. Why would I ever need a prenup? Well, no, we're best friends. We've known each other for 15 years. John and I, we've been through the wars together. Okay.
Great, then put it on paper.
Yeah.
Let's
just in case, just in case. I mean, take that step. Take that step.
And we talk about things like, what happens if one of us dies? What happens if one of us gets hurt and disabled? What happens if one of us takes a different job? What happens if one of us isn't performing? What happens if the company needs money? What happens if the company gets a lot of money? What happens if one person wants to sell, the other person doesn't? What happens if, it's like and again, this is where AI is great, because you just go to AI and say, hey, what are all the things we should be talking about? And it'll give you that list of things and then go talk about them.
Yeah, I mean, these conversations should be had before their reality, before the business is started.
The main reason is most businesses fail. A much higher percentage of businesses fail than it succeed. Even at the highest level, investment bankers and private equity firms, they'll invest in 10 companies knowing full well 7 of them are not going to make it. 1 or 2, they do okay, and 1 is going to be their home run out of that investment of 10. So the smartest people, and I put that in quotes, with the most money for sure, fail 60, 70% of the time in their investments. So, You're going to be in the healthcare business. You're going to be in the gym business, restaurants. Some industries have higher fail rates than others. That's something as you're doing your homework and you're doing your rehearsal, you want to look through and see what your odds are.
Well, you've got to be willing to fail and learn from it, right? Like
Sure.
if you're not willing to fail, this probably isn't the route for you. But let's talk about, you mentioned mistakes. Let's get down and let's kind of talk about starting. Let me ask a better question, because if I say mistakes, we could cover the next 12 hours probably with the three of us talking about mistakes we've made in business. So what are the biggest mistakes that you've made in a business or you've seen people make, right? And John, you've got a lot of experience with this. And let's try and keep it more to the early stages, because we're talking to the person thinking about starting a business, not the person exiting the business 20 years later or whatever, right? So let's try and keep it in the early days. What are the biggest mistakes you or you've seen somebody else make?
Yeah. So what Anthony talked about, all the planning you have to do. So too little planning and too much planning, both massive mistakes. Like if you're trying to cross every bridge for the next 5 years before you're through the first 180 days, I think you have to do all the things Anthony talked about when you talk about all the analysis of what's happening. And then your plan needs to be like 12 months or less. Because as soon as you get started, everything's going to be changed, going to be wrong, and all that energy is going to be out the window. And you run the risk of drinking your own Kool-Aid and just, being so, committed to the own wrong thing because you have the sunk cost of doing the work. Like too much planning can be as big a mistake as too little planning.
Yeah, to quote Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And then it changes. I think that's for sure. Over-planning is or thinking too far down the road. You used to use a term called shorten the runway.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen in the first month, second month, third month? What are the expectations? And I think a big mistake is not recognizing when you made a mistake and just trying to, that's someone else's fault. That it's going to correct itself down the road. The other one that I've seen, and we almost, in one of our businesses, almost fell victim to it, was chasing butterflies, not sticking to the knitting of what the core business is. You had an idea, you've picked the business, you're in an automotive repair shop. It's not time to sell cars. Maybe in 3 years it's time to sell cars. Yeah. You can buy classic cars from people who bring them in to get them repaired and all that. But day one, fix the damn car. And do it really well, do it at the right price, wash it, deliver it back to the customer, and get a referral for the next customer to fix your car. Stick to the knitting is who wrote that? Collins? Is that the Collins book, Built to Last?
I don't remember that being in Collins' book. I think I remember stimulate or protect the core and stimulate progress was the thing I read from him. But
whoever it was,
he may have said it.
Sticking to the knitting.
But I would argue even in that case, if you are in 3 years going to buy cars, fix them, and sell them up, that is a separate business.
Right.
Drucker would have said strategy is denial, right? Saying no to things. This is important. The other big one I think we've missed, though, is like saying I don't have competition, like ignoring the competition and be like, I don't have no one does what we do. Yeah. It's like, yeah, but someone's spending money on solving that same problem, and so you can call it a substitute or competition, but like being so ignorant is to think that no one is solving the same problem some other way and spending some other money unless the problem just doesn't matter. Either the problem doesn't matter or someone else is trying to solve it. And if you're not willing to acknowledge that someone is competing in a way that somebody else thinks is better than the way you're doing it, that's a real mistake.
I think one of the mistakes I know I've made over time is trying to do something that wasn't in either my core skill set or something that I didn't enjoy doing, and trying to build a business around something that just was not well aligned with me.
Yeah.
Right?
I've done that. That was a horrible idea.
Yeah. I haven't had this problem as much because I tend to start with, let's go sell something and see if somebody will write a check. But I've also watched people put all this time, all this effort, and they're like, I'm going to run this business and it's going to be great. And everybody, by the way, tells you, oh, John, Anthony, that's a great idea, right? But then when you actually ask them to write a check for the services, they're like, well, it's not that great of an idea. And they end up, and the business fails because they haven't figured out what people are willing to pay for and how is the business going to make money.
Well, yeah, I had a guy who wanted to start a business. He told me that he was going to be a product-led company. He was going to save money by not having a sales organization.
I'm guessing that didn't go well.
Did not go well.
Yeah.
One other mistake that we haven't touched on is a little, off the grid, is starting a business without support from the people that are closest to you.
It's a catastrophic mistake.
Right. If people doubt you or aren't supportive of you, it's going to drag you down emotionally. The other mistake people make, and I forget again, I'm not great at remembering who said, I think it was Drucker who did say this, that culture will eat strategy for lunch. In other words, if you have the wrong culture in your business, no matter what your business is, no matter what your product, over time, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah.
So be careful about that. If you don't mind, I think we should go to something positive.
So we're gonna stop talking about starting a business.
No. Actually, I'm gonna the person who invented QuickBooks, Quicken, TurboTax, among other things. His name is Scott Cook, the CEO of the founder of that company. Pretty bright guy. Said something once that I was privy to. He said, "I'm not worried about Microsoft putting accounting software on their 365. I always worry about the little guy. And remember, you're starting a business. You're the little guy. The little guy is scrappy. The little guy will do what it takes to be successful. The little guy will take risks. The little guy will be creative. The little guy is a little desperate. So watch out. You're the little guy. So if you have that mindset and you are scrappy, that big automotive guy down the street, Firestone with all its locations and attitude, and you're the scrappy guy who overserves and over-delivers for people and washes cars and delivers them to the person in their driveway, you're the scrappy guy. You're the one who's going to get that business. You're the one who's going to be able to grow your business. So there is an upside to being the little guy.
Competitive advantage.
It is a competitive advantage, and don't overlook it. So when you go into this, because you've done your homework, you know what you're going to do, you like what you're doing and you're good at it, be scrappy, because it's a very good opportunity for you to be successful, and stay at it. With all the issues that come up and all the curveballs, just stay at it. You're the scrappy guy. You can be successful.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, right? Starting where they are. I mean, I think some of the stuff we've talked about can be a little overwhelming. You have to learn this, and you got to learn this, and you got to do this, and you got to have a prenup, and you got to blah, 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 blah. Well, sometimes it's okay to start where you are and then build those skills one at a time. You don't have to, and realize you're going to make some mistakes along the way. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a fight.
Yeah. On the positive note, I think that's a good thing. When I think of a business, a lot of times, I read this in Success magazine over 30 years ago. Arthur Blank, it was talking about Arthur Blank starting Home Depot, and it started. He got unexpectedly fired from his corporate job, and he talked about how he was devastated and he didn't know how he was going to pay his mortgage and how he was going to, feed his kids and everything else. And he said, it was the greatest day of my life. And because he would have never quit that corporate job. It was too cushy, and he would have never, but out of necessity, that forced him to start Home Depot. And he would have never taken that jump, right?
Well, and there's something else too. Like, I feel like in my role at this point in my career, like, I love getting up and going to work every day. Like, I truly like it. There have been very, very, very few Mondays where I've been like, oh my God, I've got to go to work today. It happens occasionally after a long vacation or something, but like, I really love what I do.
Yeah, and running a business. There's a lot of people that love it. So while we've shit on it a lot and said all the reasons not to do it, the fact is all three of us kind of have to do it at this point. I mean, you maybe didn't your whole life, Anthony, but there's not really another choice for the three of us. And I think some of the listeners, that's true as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can be fulfilled in a number of ways. You can be fulfilled in that cushy corporate job. I shouldn't say cushy, because there's no such thing as a cushy corporate job anymore. There's no more executive dining rooms and all that stuff that I grew up with. So I don't want to do that. But we had an episode on happiness. Pursue your happiness. pursue your happy place, whatever that is. And running your own business can be that. We're just trying to be honest with you. I mean, as three men who have done this, and we know hundreds of men and women that have done this, so we know the pitfalls. We're here to help you. And that's one of the reasons, that is why Tales of Abundance exists. We have a website that is full of articles and blogs and information to help you be better at creating abundance in your life. And if creating abundance around building a business, we can help you do that. It's there for you. And that's why we exist. And we're happy to do that. But we want to give it, give it to you straight. If you want us to sugarcoat it, wrong podcast.
All right. So let's say we got listeners. We haven't completely scared them off, right? They're like, okay, even though you guys tried to scare me, you couldn't scare me. I want to start a business. Where the hell do I start?
Go to the website. Yeah, well, we have a great article we've written on the things to consider. It's one of our longer articles. It's got a lot of lists inside the list. It's a list of lists, and it'll give you a series of places to start. And then I think you can drop that into AI. Have some really interesting conversations. You know what? Reach out to us. Like I think we're actually going to take an email and set up a phone call and talk to you about it if you want to. Like that's maybe a little different than some, but we're happy to talk about it. This is fun stuff.
Yeah. You can always reach us. talesofabundance@gmail.com is the email address. So.
Take the first step, whatever that first step is for you. If it's go to AI to ask questions about what the best business for someone with my resume, put your resume in, ask it to tell you what might be a business that works. You start there, and then do it again, prompt it again. I'm a little late to AI, but in the last year I've learned about prompting and talking to it as if it's a mentor. It actually works that way. The more you prompt it, the better your answers get. So you can say please and thank you to it, although they don't like you to do that because it eats up compute time, I guess I heard. But nonetheless, take the first step, and then the second step and the third step. And if you decide to go on, then move on. If you decide not to, that's okay. There's nothing to be embarrassed about.
And we've mentioned a couple of books earlier. The E-Myth or E-Myth Revisited. John, I know one time you told me to read Simple Numbers. I did. That was fantastic.
Greg Crabtree. And
yeah, I would definitely recommend. I would say that business owners, those are a good place to start. Start with Simple Numbers to understand the money and the accounting.
E-Myth Mastery is better than the E-Myth Revisited, in my opinion. So E-Myth Mastery, Simple Numbers, Traction. Like if you're going to read
Traction's a little more advanced.
I don't know. I think Traction's better than. I've read them both and love them both. So if you're going to read 3 books, those are a great place to start.
I enjoyed Traction more than the other 2, but I would think people need those first 2 as a foundation, and then Traction would be the third one. Any other books?
No, I wasn't going to mention a book. I was going to mention one other thing. You probably know somebody that is either in the middle of starting a business or recently started a business. Go have lunch with them.
Oh, great advice.
Get a coffee or dinner or
great advice.
Golf, whatever, and talk to them. Tell them what you're thinking. And, you can listen to us all day long, but if you...
And you should.
And you should, because we are just so special. No. But talking to friends and friends of friends about what it was like to start a business, what kind of business, what were their steps. You're not the first one to start a business. I can guarantee you that. So learn from others, both their successes and their failures, and you'll either develop confidence or you'll recognize that it's not the right thing for you. And it's good to know one way or the other.
And consider the source, by the way. Like if that person wasn't successful, why weren't they successful? One of the things I will also promise you is once you start a business, you are going to get a lot of unsolicited advice, and it's a little tricky because a lot of it are people that are very well-meaning and they want to help, but they don't know anything about running a business, right? And they don't know anything. They're not considering you and your values. And I've gotten a lot of horrific advice from very well-intentioned people. But then some of those people have there's little nuggets, right? The person that might tell you 5 things that are completely wrong and stupid might be the same person that gives you a great idea, right? So but be a little careful with it.
Yeah. Beware of people trying to sell you something.
Yeah, that too.
There are, because they're a small business and they want to sell you, whether it's some sort of advertising or whatever the case might be. As the carpenters would say, measure twice, cut once. before you write a check based on a sales pitch. So trust me, your customers are doing that. So you should act like a customer as well.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. Go check out the website, visit the list of things, talk to people, ask them questions, and call us.
Yeah. All right, listeners, thank you as always. Download, subscribe, tell your friends, go to the website, and I hope that this gives you some insight onto whether or not you want to start a business. Even if the answer is no and you don't want to start it, then I would say this was a great use of your time. So thank you for listening, and everybody have a fantastic day. Listen and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Click follow for more content like this, or go to talesofabundance.com to join our community and get free tools.